Afternoon, you join me on a bright sunny day and it's time to get cracking with this heating. You might remember last time I ended up fixing a vacuum actuator which is hidden in here, but still wasn't getting the maximum effect and there's still some rushing air going on. So it's going to be the time to remove all of this and see what we've got behind. Now normally the first thing you do would be take the glove boxes off, but if I can't get the gear stick off or the handbrake sleeve off, I'm not really going to get very far with this. So that's going to be the first thing to do. So of course, being a bit of an idiot, I thought I'd have to remove the gear stick, and of course there'd be plenty of space in the gear surround for it to actually lift, for everything to lift off and over. So I suppose what I have ended up doing is I ended up removing it, and yes, I ended up breaking off the pins that I glued in some time ago, but they're easily retrievable and can be glued back on again. The handbrake is, or the sleeve rather, is proving to be, well, it was proving to be quite difficult. So what I ended up doing was wrapping some cloth around it, some paper towel, and then spraying it inside the sleeve with some WD-40, and that has rather nicely loosened things up. And there we have one naked handbrake. Next up is the radio removal. It's basically being for my own benefit, just seeing where everything gets plugged back in again. So I've got all the connectors in for the radio there, power and whatnot. And then there's the aerial. Okay, I think I'm going to be able to achieve this, so I'm now going to go and remove the glove boxes. Seems to get pretty good at getting rid of these glove boxes. I've had them on and off enough times, so that's good. Okay, what's next? Okay, so I've carefully withdrawn the fader and the cigarette lighter. Underneath we've got various clips. That's going to be fairly, can I get the camera in? So that's going to be fairly easy to remove. And I've just got to remember with the cigarette lighter that the black is going on the end here. Looks like I've already pulled off, where's the camera on this? Yeah, it looks like I've already pulled off one connector. Under electrical tape, we've got retaining screws. And having removed those retaining screws, the back of the panel is free. Of course, there's going to be a connector, there's going to be some sort of wire running to the back because we do have another cigarette lighter there. Or a 12-volt socket, as they would now be known as. At the front of the console, we've got some screws holding the vinyl trim piece in, so they have to come out. Seemingly AMSUDs on this side of the car, which I'm pretty certain I probably have taken off before, but maybe just fallen out, or maybe it wasn't screwed back into the sort of retaining pin properly. But I can always get another one of those out of my box. I'm guessing that that screw there, and there's another one there, would be holding the top part of this in. It's hard to tell whether that's part of the matrix, and then this is, it's hard to tell whether that's part of the matrix and this is actually just just sitting on top of it, or what really. It's very definitely being held in place though. So I'm going to remove them. It's not going to hurt to remove them and see what happens. I've removed the trip computer, and I can see that there are more screws behind that. The computer has a large plug and an earth. Okay, and then with those removed, it can be withdrawn. Not entirely sure what that bracket is. Okay, cool. Right, on to the next bit. Right, so you want to push the seats forwards, and then you can gain access to the rear lighter connectors, which are going to be under there. So this isn't going to come off unless I remove the gear stick, and I would say that I've got 1, 2, 3 retaining screws. The other thing I've done as well is remove the metal bar up here that this then holds onto. There's one screw there. There is an absent screw over there. So, right, let's try removing this gear selector. Actually, I didn't have to remove it, I was just being too gentle. Right, next thing I want to do is remove this faceplate. Partly because I want to give it a good clean, partly because I also want to see what is behind it. Now, I can see that someone's been here before actually, because on closer inspection these screw heads are actually quite mashed. They're going to be a challenge to remove, and then I'm going to have to replace them with some new screws. And with all that removed, this entire plate withdraws. Now also interestingly, I reckon is that the fibre optics? Ooh, can we see that? Where are we now? There we go. Are those the fibre optics? Because this doesn't light up, and it should do. Right, the fibre optics are held in place with these retaining brackets, so I'm going to unclip them from there, and then I can withdraw the panel. Next thing I'm going to do is remove the hoses, withdraw those, and I can get access at the fibre optic, and I can investigate why this doesn't light up. With the hoses out the way, I can see that the fibre optic connects over there, which I knew that's where it was. I didn't realise it only did the heating controls. I thought it actually lit up most of the rest of the dashboard. It's always a good idea to label up the various bits and pieces that you take off the car, so you know where they go back, what holds what in place. Okay, so I think I've dismantled enough of the car, and I've labelled up all the screws that have come off. Before I start investigating the heating controls and seeing why things aren't moving and what must be leaking and so on and so forth, I think it's time to give this a nice clean. You can see a little bit of the alarm in there. Just go with this weird bundle of wires here. I mean, that's got to be something to do with the alarm system, but it seems to be rigged into or drawing power from the whatchamacallit, what was that? That was the cigarette lighter. I've even labelled it so I know what goes back where. But it doesn't really seem to go anywhere, unless of course that was like to activate on central locking or something like that, which isn't linked up to this car. And no, I'm actually going to link it up, because as we know, my central locking is a little bit intermittent, although working at present. Right, cleaning time. Note to self, don't remove this, because that's got the perfect angle for holding the trip computer in place. But when you put it back together, the carpet is going to sit underneath this like it is on the other side. So you're going to need to undo that, put the carpet in underneath, and that holds it in place. Whilst cleaning, I have found this. I have no idea what it is. Okay, so this job is turning into a bigger job, because I'm thinking, instead of just focusing on this thingy-madoodah here, I'm going to try and, while I've got everything off, I'm going to try and fix as much as I possibly can. The gear selector is always a little bit crusty. The action itself with the gearbox itself is fine, but the surround, although it's absolutely fine, has got a bit of a crunch to it, in as much as there's I don't know, there's dust or shrapnel or something caught inside this here. You can see that I think over the years there's been friction as the selector's been moved along and scraped it somewhat. You know, that's going to be part of the course, isn't it, really? Some sort of lubrication I think might be in order for this. Maybe some good old WD-40, I don't know. And then when I took the fascia off, that was cracked, so I'm going to give that a good gluing and sort that out. I mentioned some mashed screws, which maybe I've got some screws that could replace. I don't know, I'll look into that. Just move that out of the way. But yeah, we can see how part of this sort of works. If I mean, this is the temperature switch, and I always said that when you move it to cold, you can feel a click like a micro switch, and indeed you can, because that's where it is. So as the flap moves, or you move the slider, you can see that it actually pushes into that micro switch there, which then goes off to feed some air. We've got a vacuum pipe, which is vacuum pipe F, and underneath it we've got another vacuum pipe as well. Can't see a label at this point in time, but again, I'm just sort of investigating at the moment. Then next up we've got the main selector, and as this, I don't know if we can see, but as this slides from position to position, it directs the vacuum into each of these particular tubes, and we can see, I think that there is A, for example, and another one, I think that's I think is connected to the air conditioning, for it activates the air conditioning when it does that. And if you remember, that A and B were the two that I was trying to fix. They're sort of round there. I was trying to fix in one of my earlier videos. So I've charged the battery up as well, so I should be in a position where I can start investigating with a bit of engine and see what is happening and where, and try and find out why I'm not getting flaps move unless I'm in cold. Oh, and also the rushing air as well. Yes, rushing air doesn't sound like a particularly healthy system. Right, the battery is back on. First test is whether or not that bulb lights up. It does. Okay, that's really quite bright. That's good. So the lighting up is going to be something to do with the fibre optic unit itself. Yes. Is it distributing the light or whatever? So there's that. Okay, so first thing I'm going to think about is the rushing air sound on off. So connected to this switch is well, this basically. At the back of the switch, there's a few wires. Some of them come off, and then they go into this. And this itself is a small vacuum switch itself, and it has hose C and D that come out of it. So I'm wondering if the source of this, if I was to end up disconnecting this and then testing that, do we get rushing vacuum? And I wonder what happens to the operation of the heater box at that particular point. So I'm going to try that. So looking at my diagram, this is what I've been looking at here. 16, as it says here, to blower speed off. So when it's turned off, this is then going to activate, and C and D, the two vacuum hoses, come out of that. And what do? Do they go back into the main switch? I shall investigate. So there's C and D. So this selector. Where are we? So this selector, one of the selections for it, something to do with this, and then something to do with that actuator. I shall investigate still further. Okay, so here's some of the stuff that I've learned. When this is off, it activates this here, this vacuum solenoid. Let's say, is it a vacuum solenoid? Yes, vacuum solenoid, which then has pipe C and D that come out of it, and they go into this down here. Not sure why it does that. Maybe it's just to turn the system completely off and to provide some power to close flaps. I'm trying to guess here, I suppose. The other thing as well, so I mean, my big beef with the system is that I don't get any action on the flaps when the engine is hot. And reason being is down this. What I've discovered is that when the engine's on, whenever this is pushed in, this diversion valve, it sends power, it sends vacuum to whatever is needed, basically. If I put it on hot and I push it in, you end up getting the flaps move when it is hot. When it is cold, well, naturally it is going to be pushed in because the flap happens to move and push it in. So I'm wondering what that happens to be about, because as soon as you come away from it, you end up releasing the switch, and then the vacuum, you end up losing basically. And I guess when you go from cold to hot, you get just enough vacuum left in there to, rather you move the flaps, don't you? You move the flaps, and then you get just and then you can sweat it to hot, and then you've got heat. But isn't it weird how you'd have to put it into cold and then into hot? I don't know if that is actually normal operation for the air conditioning unit in the SD1. I don't know. It seems weird though, but maybe I'm just judging it by modern standards. Anyway, I'm gonna have a little look at this unit here. I'm gonna get this video up. I don't know why that would be making rushing noises. Maybe it's expired. I don't know. I took the. That's just got to go back on again. I took it off just to see what happened, and of course it just kills the unit if it doesn't have any power. So, right. Tomorrow I'm going to tidy up now. Tomorrow I'm going to clean things up and start putting things back together again.